Dirt Trax is sponsored by Can-Am. The ride says it all. Polaris, the world leader in off-road innovation. And by Yamaha. Conquer Outdoors.
So it seems like I'm becoming sort of the intrepid international traveler here for Dirt Trax Television. Another opportunity came up with Can-Am to come out to United Arab Emirates to attend an event called Liwa. And what Liwa is it's a week-long motorsport spectacular. It's probably the best way you can describe it. Obviously, United Arab Emirates isn't just around the corner for us. It was pretty extensive travel to get here. We had a 12-hour direct flight with Emirates Air that went from Toronto to Dubai. So as we all know, there's been no more of a dramatic transformation of a piece of geography or landscape than the city of Dubai. 50 years ago, it was just a small little fishing village. Today, it's risen as one of the financial sector of the Middle East. The architecture in Dubai as well is striking. One of the things that they aim to do is they either aim to become the #1, the tallest freestanding structure or building in the world, or the most elaborate in terms of design. And that's marked by the city landscape of Dubai. The amount of construction that's gone in Dubai is unheard of. A lot of times, someone from North America thinks of the Middle East, they think of sort of the traditional things, the customary dresses that individuals wear, both the men and women also. United Arab Emirates is different though, especially as you get into Dubai. Dubai is very, very much so domesticated from our sort of perspective. You know, when you walk along the main thoroughfare in Dubai, you see more North American restaurants and brand names than you do anything else. Even though you're in a foreign country, a world somewhat all to its own, you feel really, really comfortable. With us traveling to an international location, we weren't meeting up with our typical fanfare that we know at Can-Am. We're going to be meeting some new individuals that are based out of their Geneva, Switzerland office. And the gentleman that heads up all of the marketing for what they refer to as SSV, Sports Side-by-Side Vehicles, is a gentleman by the name of Parikh Ponyet. So Parikh, how long have you been with BRP again?
I've been working for BRP for now over 5 years.
Oh, that's great. You started off as an analyst and now you're taking care of all the marketing.
Yeah, marketing for off-road products in Europe and Middle East and Africa.
Ah, that's great.
So this is why we're here today.
This must be Lawrence?
Yes, so Lawrence is our commercial manager for Middle East.
Oh, great. Hey, Lawrence.
Hi.
Pleasure to meet you. Vern.
Nice to meet you.
I'm really interested in getting on this drive with you and learning all about sort of the country and the sports festival.
So the Liwa is it's an oasis in the desert.
Okay.
And this is the second largest desert in the world called the Empty Quarter.
Okay.
Rub al-Khali in Arabic. And Liwa is roughly 400 kilometers from here. Ever been there before?
No,
No.
never. This is the
Good.
first time.
I think the best to see it, we will see it, rather than describing.
That's great. Well, let's get on the road. Dubai, we drove 3.5 hours south to Liwa, which is an oasis in the middle of the desert. And it's just south of Dubai, and then you go through Abu Dhabi. And it was really neat to spend time with them, especially during that 3.5 hour drive, because one of the things that's really important is when you travel is that, you need to immerse yourself in the culture. You need to really understand the culture, and there is no better expert than Lawrence. Lawrence had lived in Dubai for 12 years, and he's been servicing this area since 1995, from what I understand. So it was a really interesting time spent with them.
Out of the fair of Saudi Arabia taking them over, they agreed to unite and create one country. And this is how in 71 the United Arab Emirates was created. And those are 7 Emirates.
I see, okay.
And I would say there are 2 dominant Emirates, which is Dubai and Abu Dhabi. The other 5 are just a little puppet Emirates. %90 of the oil is in Abu Dhabi. Abu Dhabi is the biggest Emirates by size and by population also, and has 90% of the oil. 9% is in Dubai, and the remaining 1% of the oil and the wealth is among the remaining 5 Emirates.
France.
As you get into Liwa, you get into what they refer to as the Morib or the Liwa Desert, and it also sort of transitions over to what they refer to as the empty quarter. Now, this portion of desert is massive. Like, we've gone to a lot of deserts in sand dunes in North America, but nothing compares to the size of this desert. It's equivalent, from what I've read, to the size of the country of France.
Dirt Trax is sponsored by Princess Auto, a unique world of equipment, tools, and more.
So the Liwa Motorsport Festival is a lot more than motorsports. As mentioned, it's a week-long event, and they have events that start off at the beginning of the week. There's camel racing, horseback racing, falcon racing. As you sort of get into the mid portion of the week, they've got drifting down on an asphalt pad. They've got drag racing, motocross racing. Coming into this event, we knew that the nearby hotel, which is maybe about 30 kilometers away, it's been booked for years. There's no way you're gonna get in. So the way that you gotta stay here is you gotta camp. When we arrived, we were expecting what we typically expect in terms of tents. But there was like a little village popped up. A compound, if you will. Around the compound there was flags. There was a gathering area where we could sort of sit and mingle and talk to our hosts. And then surrounding the compound was individual yurts, if you will. And it was super, super comfortable. The distributor here in the United Arab Emirates is a distributor called MTM. So quite a large organization. They're also the distributor for Nissan, which is the #1 selling car and truck. Two of the principal managers at MTM Power Sports is Mark and Bassem. These are guys that we've got to know quite well over the last number of days. And it was really interesting talking to them and learning about how excited they were when they finally released the X3 and the opportunities that it presented to them in terms of satisfying customers that have always been sort of intrigued by Can-Am, but were never sold on the product that Can-Am was delivering.
Liwa 2017 was an important event for us because this is the one event here in the UAE specifically where all of the Middle East off-road riders come to. This is kind of like an off-road haven for the Middle East. And this is the only place, and as you saw, where you can do pretty much anything you want with your off-road vehicle. And so we felt that it was really important because we could showcase the Maverick X3 in its element in front of its market.
Actually, this area is the most difficult area to ride UTVs in the Middle East. With the old version or competitor brands, we always having issues because it's tricky, dunes. With the XRS, you just hit the throttle and go. It's easy. You're gonna have no issues. Long travel is helping you. You have a lot of torque in this engine. The engine is unbelievable. You feel like it's so heavy, it's not gonna go up. You just hit the throttle in the right place to reach wherever you want. That's the magic of the X3.
When we launched the Maverick XRS back in 2013, we had a launch here, and then after a while we had engineers and product management coming here in Middle East just to check, okay, what's the playground, what's the usage of the vehicles, and what's the habit of people, like something we can see here in Liwa exactly. So that's what they did, and they managed to find out, okay, it's pretty similar. I mean, users here, consumers here are pretty similar in terms of needs and usage than what it is in southwest of the US. So that was the first step. And then they built the machine, they tested it, and they were ready to launch it. And we managed to have prototypes here like 10 days after the launch in the US. So we had 2 prototypes. It was like 49 degrees Celsius, so pretty hot. And they managed to go up at the dune that you will see. And I mean, the feedback we had was like, really, it's an amazing machine.
Speaking with Mark and Bassem, what I've learned is that they've been craving a vehicle just like the X3. They had no idea that it was coming until sort of midway through last year, where they were asked some certain questions that sort of sparked some interest in saying that, you know what, maybe Can-Am is thinking about a vehicle that we've always wanted. When they finally showed the vehicle back in August of 2016, they're just elated. They knew that this was the ticket to sort of generate more interest in the Middle East and penetrate that market that Polaris for so many years, and deserving so, held. So it was great to sort of see that from their perspective, is that they now had a product that was legitimate, that could be sold here, and that was going to be widely accepted by the market. You know, back home, Saturday and Sunday are our weekends. In the Middle East, Friday is the start of the weekend. So they have Friday and Saturday off, and Sunday is the day that they return back to work. Today being Friday, it's pretty much packed, so it's going to be a pretty interesting day to take in. It's somewhat unheard of when you talk to these individuals how passionate they are about motorsports, and more importantly, performance and horsepower. They absolutely love horsepower. If they're not drag racing down the strip here, they're drag racing back in the city. They love ultimate performance. The real feature spectacle here is the sand drags. And they've got probably about 200-meter climb that they have to do, and some of these guys are doing it about less than 8 seconds. And it's right from a dead stop, right at the base of the hill, where the slope is really, really steep. So there's really no rolling or mechanical advantage that these guys have. The first class is basically a 6-cylinder class that are reaching up to 1,500 horsepower. Superchargers, twin turbos, as many as 4 turbos. And then when you get to the 8-cylinder class, these are guys that are reaching up to 3,000 horsepower. Unfortunate for them, but it was entertaining to us, is that a lot of these guys are maybe batting 500. They'd get up to line and they'd be ready to launch up the hill, and the whole motor would just blow apart. They get a couple tries, come back, they'd eventually sort of get up the hill. You could just tell the amount of people that had flown into Liwa to watch this was awesome. Coming up next week on Dirt Trax, we continue our adventures to the UAE, where we take on the legendary Marib Dune with the Maverick X3, venture out into the Liwa Desert's empty quarter, and delve into some exotic Middle Eastern cuisine. You won't want to miss it.
Dirt Trax is sponsored by MBRP Power Sports, race-inspired performance.
What is this thing? What did you buy, dude? Oh, man. It's not that bad. It's an Outlander. Does it even run? No, but it will. Dude, you're in charge of this one, man. I don't want to get involved. This looks like it's going to be a mess. It's going to be good. So I know this isn't our typical Dirt Trax rig. I mean, usually it's brand new stuff rolling off the trailer that's super shiny and really clean with big horsepower. But this year, I'm going in a little bit of a different direction. I've had a lot of folks ask me to build something that they could do, not a brand new 15 grand rig with 10 grand worth of parts put in it. Okay, so I listened, and while we are going to be taking this thing to the next level, it's all feasible and it's able to be done in stages. We have a big list of build partners for this project, and I am super excited to see how it's going to turn out. So my goal at the end of the day is to take a Gen 1 Can-Am, as haggard as it may be, and turn it into a full tilt mud racer. Sure, I could have taken anything off the shelf from Can-Am, Polaris, or Arctic Cat that's built to be in the mud, but I wanted to do it with a vehicle you could buy for 3 to 4 grand, either side of the border, Canada or USA. This is an 08 800 Outlander base model, and it's had a bunch of pieces added, changed, and definitely abused over the years. It blew a prop shaft joint, which resulted in the shaft flying around like a half-baked salmon and tearing up the fuel tank. The front bumper is broken, the seat's a little bit ripped, and there's a lot of scars. But at the core, this is still a solid frame with some good bones. And that's precisely what we needed to start with, the bones. To find out what we're really dealing with here and to make sure that the frame looks good and is all clean, we got to remove all the stuff that we're never going to use. The winch, the snowplow mount, and a bunch of the motor shrouds that are left on there. We're going to get rid of all of it so we can see what's underneath this thing. And most importantly, we're going to be completely overhauling this motor, and it needs a deep cleaning before we pull the motor out of the chassis. It's a good idea to not remove the exhaust or other components prior to washing, as we don't want to fill the motor with water. There's a lot of years of hard running on this Gen 1, but underneath all that crud are the bones we need to uncover. Multiple rounds of degreaser and power washing are revealing what we are truly working with. And at the end of the day, everything looks pretty good. If you're looking to do a project like this, there are a couple of things that are really important to keep in mind. Most importantly, and number one, is the frame itself. Pretty much everything can be fixed, upgraded, or replaced, but the frame is something that's nice to know that's in good shape. Check near the welds and mounts for cracks or damage. This one is actually really clean, considering that it has 8,000 miles on it, or about 13,500 kilometers. When it comes to CV boots, engine oil leaks, or loose bushings, we really aren't too concerned, as all of this stuff can be replaced pretty easy with stronger parts. With our Outlander, now just a rolling chassis, we can take the motor, put it in a box, and take the chassis and the motor down to our buddy Greg Laughlin at Mr. RPM, where we'll make this stock 800 very not stock. Stay tuned to future episodes of our mud build, where this thing is going to get a little wild.
Closed captioning of Dirt Tracks is sponsored by Triton Trailer, built for adventure.
I'm sure that you've heard time and time again, as I have, that good things come in small packages. Now, I've always found this saying to be more than a little bit ridiculous. I mean, who doesn't love a great big Razor Turbo or Ranger 1000? Bigger is definitely better. But what if size is relative? After all, a little vehicle might seem pretty big and awesome to a little person. That's where Polaris's all-new ACE 150 comes in. No, this isn't a vehicle for you. This is for the little people in your life. And for them, it doesn't get much better. What is an ACE 150, you're probably wondering? It's pretty straightforward. It is a downsized version of Polaris's innovative ACE single-seat UTV. By downsized, I don't mean tiny though. In actuality, the ACE 150 is pretty big. It's only 5 inches shorter than a full-size ACE 500, and it's a full 48 inches wide. Its overall height is also 10 inches lower than that full-size ACE 500. This means it feels incredibly stable and it keeps all 4 wheels firmly planted on the ground. Under the hood, you're going to find a 149cc electronically fuel-injected single with electric start. Unlike most kid-sized vehicles, this one is not at all underpowered though. In fact, the ACE 150 fully rips, and it's capable of hitting 30 miles an hour. Polaris lists the Mini Ace as being suited for kids 10 years old and up. Now, I've seen some pretty small 10-year-olds in my time, but that's not a problem because the ergonomics of the ACE 150 are completely adjustable. With the seat all the way forward and the steering wheel all the way down, even the smallest 10-year-old will have no trouble reaching the pedals. With the wheel all the way up and the seat all the way back, let's just say even Dad could give it a try with relative ease. Starting kids off slowly into the power sports industry is always a good idea. So Polaris has built into the ACE 150 a 4-level electronic speed limiting system. This makes limiting the speed of the ACE 150 easy to adjust and very confidence-inspiring. Add to that the seatbelt and added protection of a full roll cage, and you've got an incredibly safe kid-sized UTV that even Mom will approve of. So look, I'm clearly an adult, and the ACE 150 is clearly meant for kids. I can give you all the technical details of how this vehicle is built, but I can't accurately describe for you how it performs because, simply put, it's not meant for me. So I figured, why not bring in someone it is meant for and have them tell you what they think about it. Kaylee is 12 years old and has been racing dirt bikes since she was a toddler. This past winter, she got her snowmobile license here in Ontario, Canada, and logged about 1,000 miles on the trail. In a nutshell, she's a motorhead who not only knows how to drive, but she knows how to rip off-road.
I like riding off-road vehicles just because they have a motor. Everything is better with the motor. I've always rode side-by-sides with my dad, but he never really lets me drive it. Now that there's a proper size, I can drive it now and it's really fun. What I like about the size of the ACE 150 is you can reach the pedals and the steering wheel and you can just adjust everything. The ACE 150 motor, it feels really smooth on the trail, and when you're going around corners, You can really just adjust speed to what you like. You can't really get in trouble with the motor. You can ride at your own pace and just have a lot of fun with it. The ACE 150 feels like really stable when you're if you go off a jump or around a corner. I felt safe in it, so I think a lot of people would. There's a lot of modes that you can adjust the ACE 150 to for kids who have different experience with motorsports. It's super safe to learn how to ride off-road, and it's a super fun way to just spend the rest of your afternoon after you come home from school.
At the end of the day, how the ACE 150 works for your kids is really what's most important. So Kaylee, what did you think?
It was super fun to ride. I'd do it again in a heartbeat. For parents out there, they should really buy their kids an ACE 150.
I couldn't have said it better myself.
Dirt Trax Television has been sponsored by Polaris, the world leader in off-road innovation, Can-Am, the ride says it all, and by Arctic Cat, share our passion.
This segment is just the start for you. Click the subscribe button and become part of the Dirt Trax Nation, where you'll have access to tons of great content from all of the years past of our great stories, trail techs, and test rides.